Welcome to the Bloomin' Well podcast. I'm your host, Dr. McKenzy, a functional wellness chiropractor specializing in gut, brain, and hormone health. Join me as we explore natural methods for health and wellness, focusing on regulating your nervous system, nurturing your gut-brain axis, exploring the mind-body connection, and getting to the root cause of your chronic illness. Hello and welcome to episode 3. Today we're discussing 13 signs your nervous system is dysregulated. So how often are you waking up feeling exhausted? You hit the snooze button, you're struggling to get out of bed, maybe you're really nauseous in the mornings and you have trouble eating breakfast or keeping it down. Maybe you feel like your mornings are really stressful, really chaotic, and you feel completely overwhelmed. When we're overwhelmed, when we have unending to-do lists, or we have family and social responsibilities that are getting to be a bit daunting and overwhelming, we tend to not just be exhausted, but also make decisions that aren't necessarily the healthiest for us because we're tired, right? How many times have you been exhausted and you've reached for a candy bar or maybe even multiple cups of coffee to really get you through the rest of your day? You know, in short amounts, maybe that's not the worst thing for you, but when we fall into really exhausted states and we're continuously making these unhealthy decisions, it's not good for our nervous system. It's not good for our overall health and can even lead to our body being stuck in that survival mode state and cause all kinds of health issues in the long run. So before we dive into the signs that your nervous system is dysregulated, let's briefly talk about what nervous system dysregulation is. Your nervous system is what controls your body. It is what intakes sensory information from your external world and even from your internal world and sends that up to the brain, which is part of your nervous system, and gives it this information so that it knows what to do and when to do it. Most of you have probably heard of the branches of your nervous system referred to as the sympathetic, fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, or rest and digest part of your nervous system. Now, your sympathetic fight or flight is what happens when your brain thinks that there is a threat and your heart starts to race, your pupils dilate, you start to be very aware of everything that's going on around you. Your parasympathetic or rest and digest state is what happens when you are just chilling, you just had a really big meal, you're getting kind of sleepy, you're relaxing more, your food is starting to digest and preparing to give you this boost of energy after it starts to absorb all of these nutrients. So when your nervous system is dysregulated, that's usually when your brain or your nervous system are not properly responding to stress and threats that are either in the environment around you or in the internal environment within your body. So now that we know that, let's look at the different signs that your nervous system is dysregulated. So first up, we have startling easily. When our nervous systems are being repeatedly activated, the amygdala, which is the primal part of your brain that is kind of like this alarm system for stress, it remains in this state of heightened alertness. So think of the amygdala as this smoke alarm that is going off at nothing. It's going off all the time when there's not even smoke in the house. That's what happens when your nervous system is dysregulated. Your amygdala is signaling to the rest of the brain and body, hey, there's a threat, when there's really not a threat, or it could be a very minimal threat. As a result, even small stimuli can set off the amygdala. So a ringing phone might send you into a panic attack or make you jump out of your chair, or maybe a shadow in your peripheral vision could really startle you, even if it's just your hair falling across your face or something else that isn't necessarily an actual threat. So when the amygdala is active, its primary function is to ensure that it detects any possible threat, whether it's a harmless stick on the trail or a potentially dangerous snake. Number 2, we have hair loss. So one of the most common signs of long-term stress and nervous system dysregulation is actually hair loss or hair thinning. When your brain is telling your body that it's under attack, it actually starts to give all of its energy towards avoiding what appears to be certain death. So anything that is not directly related to survival becomes a lower priority. Your brain and body are not concerned about how your hair looks. It wants to survive in this state. So it is going to put hair on the lower end of its priority list. During this period, the body actually prioritizes blood flow and nutrient circulation to the arms and legs that are going to help you fight off a threat or run from a threat. It also starts to shunt all of these nutrients into the heart to pump blood faster and stronger, and to your brain so that it can respond more quickly to oncoming threats and changes of the situation. Because your brain just doesn't care about having a lush head of hair. It doesn't care about impressing that new person at work that you're interested in, or someone that you recently went on a date with. It's more interested in staying alive. Number 3, we have chronic anxiety and feeling on edge. So anxiety is a very common experience for so many people, and it can manifest in different ways at different times, even with different triggers, but it keeps people trapped in this state of hypervigilance, in this state of survival mode. When your stress response is actually triggered, people tend to find themselves on edge, anticipating something negative that is about to happen, whether it is actually going to happen or not. Oftentimes when we are experiencing chronic anxiety, we tend to think that our day is going to go wrong, even if it's not, even if there are no true signs. And that leads to the mind meticulously calculating these potential outcomes and just burning up all of this energy and leaving you feeling even more on edge and more anxious than before. And if you are interested in ways to reduce this chronic anxiety and help regulate your nervous system, check out our episode on how to reduce anxiety and stress by stimulating your vagus nerve. Up next, we have number 4, food cravings. A dysregulated nervous system occurs when your body is stuck in that fight or flight mode. And when your body is in that state, it believes it is facing an imminent threat. And as a result, it triggers a response to stockpile calories and energy for this upcoming fight or escape, whichever is looming on the horizon. So this can actually explain why we tend to have such intense food cravings, especially for salty or sugary foods when we are under stress, because our bodies are actively seeking out more fuel and more energy to prepare for what it is anticipating. Number 5, we have weight gain. Weight gain is actually tied to the food cravings. Surprise, surprise. When our body is actually gearing up for this life-threatening situation, whether it's real or perceived, it tends to develop cravings for particular foods in order to try and gain extra resources, like we stated with the food cravings. Both the food cravings and the weight gain are tied to the release of the stress hormone called cortisol, especially when we are under prolonged periods of stress for extended amounts of time. I'm talking years. So cortisol actually plays a significant role in directing the body to store fat, especially around your abdominal area. So if you find that you are prone to storing fat around your abdomen, around your midsection, but not in your arms or legs, that could be a sign that A, your nervous system is dysregulated, and B, your cortisol levels are abnormal. Number 6, we have tension. So when you are under pressure, it's common to feel overwhelmed and you might end up pushing yourself too hard, but this overexertion can actually result in muscle tension, specifically in areas like your neck, your shoulders, your hips, and your jaw. You might find yourself clenching your teeth. These stress hormones are actually intended to induce muscle contractions to safeguard vital organs, to protect them from potential impact or damage. But when our bodies are under this stress for a long period of time, these contractions actually can turn into muscle tension, and it's very persistent, it's very uncomfortable, and can lead to knots in our muscles, in our fascia, and ultimately chronic pain in both. Number 7, we have trouble sleeping. So after you've had a really long day and you feel like you're super exhausted, you're ready to go to bed, you're ready for sleep, but the moment your head touches the pillow, your mind starts to just race. It runs through all of these never-ending to-do lists, these potential scenarios that are very doom and gloom, even old scenarios that weren't necessarily very positive from months ago, from years ago. Or maybe you fall asleep at night, but you're struggling to stay asleep. Insomnia is definitely a sign that your nervous system is dysregulated, that stress is way too high, either mentally, physically, or chemically, and that your brain and body are both trying to send you signs and signals that it needs rest, that it needs nourishment, that it needs more structure and routine and relaxation that is worked into each day for you. Number 8, we have afternoon crashes. So experiencing afternoon crashes or fatigue, especially between 2 and 5 p.m., is highly associated with dysregulated nervous systems, cortisol imbalances, and too much stress. Oftentimes, this imbalance happens when the brain is stuck in that prolonged fight or flight state, and when we're not consuming enough nutrients, not enough whole foods, not enough vitamins, minerals, and macronutrients that are from healthy sources. In response to this lack of nutrients, the brain and body actually activate the stress response to release hormones like cortisol that can elevate blood sugar levels in order to provide extra energy and nutrients into our bloodstream. Number 9, we have frequent headaches. So conditions like migraines, backaches, light and sound sensitivity, and headaches can all be attributed to a nervous system that is overtaxed, that is way too stressed. Because when your nervous system is dysregulated because of too much stress, obviously it can influence those stress hormones that actually increase the body's sensitivity to pain, increase the body's sensitivity to any kind of external stimuli like light and sound. So this can lead to more frequent and intense episodes of discomfort like migraines and back pain. Number 10, we have chronic fatigue. So even if you get a full night's sleep, you might still find yourself feeling exhausted, feeling like you have no energy, and just plain drained when you wake up in the mornings. This can also be a sign of too much stress in your life and a dysregulated nervous system, because when we are exposing our brain and our bodies to too much stress and too much of stress hormones like cortisol, it can really tax our adrenal glands and lead us to exhaustion and fatigue that is more chronic and long-lasting. Number 11 is brain fog. So if you are experiencing moments where you forget what you walked into a room for, or you're forgetting what you ate for breakfast that morning, or maybe you're having trouble recalling specific words, or maybe you're in the middle of a meeting and someone asks you a question and you normally know the answer, but all of a sudden your mind just goes blank. You're struggling to think clearly, you're struggling to maintain focus, your productivity is struggling. All of this can be because of elevated cortisol levels. They can have a direct impact on the brain's memory centers that can cause your thinking to be very clouded and to cause your memory to suffer as well. So don't immediately jump to dementia or Alzheimer's, because it might just be a dysregulated nervous system and too much stress. Number 12, we have tummy troubles. Your digestive system is intricately linked to your brain through the vagus nerve, and it is very sensitive to stress and stress hormones. So when your brain is consistently in that fight or flight state, that survival mode, it is signaling to the rest of the body to prioritize those essential functions that we talked about earlier over things that seem to be less important, like digestion. Your brain doesn't care if you're being chased by a tiger to digest the rest of your food. It can pull energy out of other reserves like fat or muscle tissue if it needs to. When the body tends to shift into this fight or flight state and put digestion on the back burner, that's when it can lead to issues like heartburn, constipation, sometimes diarrhea, stomach aches, and nausea when we become overloaded with stress. If you are feeling overwhelmed and you do feel like your nervous system is in fact dysregulated and you don't know how to heal or you don't know where to begin, please feel free to go to my website and schedule a free consultation with me to see how we can work together and how I can help you get unstuck from this chronic fight or flight mode. That's drmckenzybrewer.com, drmckenzybrewer.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Bloomin' Well podcast. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, happy healing and keep bloomin' well.